and they made a trade to kick off their first pick. So they traded their third and a fifth and a seventh to trade up for. Now you're gonna have to help me with his name, Ji'Ayir Brown. Is that correct?
I would go, yeah, that sounds about right to me.
Ji'Ayir Brown, who is a safety, and I know a lot of people were saying tackle. You know, there's tackles there. They need to get a tackle, but they trade up to bring in a safety who would seem to be a Tashawn Gibson replacement for 2024. Though, if I'm Tashawn Gibson, I'm like, I know I just re-signed. You're drafting my backup. There's been crazier things that have happened. But what'd you think about Brown from Penn State, the pick to trade up and possibly pair him with Hufanga down the line?
Yeah, the thing about a lot of these picks, and again, I am going to preface this by saying that I understand that traits are just one part of the equation, right? But the example that I used, that I hit on today, there were two, was Jason Poe last year. Um, I don't think he was a draft pick. He was a
Free agent.
undrafted free agent.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing was that he had a lot of explosiveness and a lot of technique for a center guard coming in from a small college. But what we saw with him in the preseason is that none of that mattered, because just like on roller coasters, there's a height and weight requirement for playing the interior line in the NFL. You're just not going to be 5'10" and 200 and something pounds. You're just not, big enough.
Yeah.
Dudes, guys who aren't even, who are, on UPS trucks or selling insurance, were just physically, carrying him to ball carriers and throwing him out of way to get it. So while measurables don't tell the whole story, there is a certain level that, when you see players that play like in the Sun Belt and they're, good technique players, the question is, do they have the measurables to transfer that level of production to the NFL? So there's just a ticket to admission. And the other one is like, okay, Coach Singh was notoriously down on Patrick Willis's technique. The guy can't play, is what he said. But he, was able to, everything he was able to accomplish at Ole Miss, he was basically able to do just based on raw talent. He could just run from sideline to sideline, and he could do things physically. The things he could do physically are things that you can't coach. And the things that you can coach, somebody like Coach Singh or Coach Chris here with defensive linemen, they're some of the best football teachers in the world in the NFL. So if you've got the talent, most of the things, they feel like if you've got traits, we can teach you how to play. And then it's all about how hard you're going to work. So the traits matter because they're things that, your vertical jump is not something they're going to be able to fix. Your arm length, if you got short arms, if you are T-Rex, they're just not going to be able to fix that.
Short arms like Leprechaun, like Biggie said.
If your eyes are bad or your hands are bad or your feet are bad, those are things that they can fix. If you're willing to work on them, if you're coachable, they can fix those things. So that's what is interesting to me, is to look at who they've drafted, and that mock draftable has been great, and that is to be able to like plug in who they drafted this year and even in the past, to gotta get a feel for the kind of guys that these guys are looking for.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what's interesting to me, is what kind of traits do they kind of seem to value, and what are things that, based on who they've picked in the past, that they really don't put much stock in from a measurable standpoint. But his the thing is, I was saying for this guy, his measurables aren't great. So
yeah,
that's interesting.
He's not, he's not fast, much like Hufanga's not fast, right? Like that's the thing that they mentioned.